I recently injured myself at work. Do I need to get a work comp attorney, and should I get one?
Let's see, you don't always need to have a workers' comp attorney. In workers' comp, you can represent yourself. You're not required to have an attorney, and in many cases, you might not need an attorney. What I mean by that is, in the workers' comp setting, not only can you represent yourself, you have a little bit of additional help. The help in workers' comp is the INA officer. At every workers' comp board, there's a separate office for an INA office. That's an information assistance officer that will guide you through the process if there's no attorney involved.
And if I injure myself at work, can I keep working there while the case is pending?
Oh, you certainly can. What happens is, think of it like a case where, let's say you were working in a shop and you, let's say, amputated a couple fingers. As catastrophic as that might sound, you might still be able to do a job where you could still work without those fingers, anything like that. And as a result, you can still work, you can still collect your money, still collect your wages, but you will get compensation for your injury or your disability.
What about the opposite? Let's say I'm injured, but my injury is so bad I'm never going to return to my old position.
Well, that's a little scary, okay? Really, these days, it's a real big concern. In the old days, and when I say old days, I've been doing this since 1980, we used to have a situation where somebody would get retrained. They'd actually have a vocational rehab counselor work with them. They would be paid bi-weekly paychecks while they went through the rehab process. They would pay for computers, they would pay for interview clothes, they would do the whole 9 yards and assist you. These days, what they have is a supplemental job vocational rehab voucher. So you'll get like a $6,000 voucher to help you through the voc rehab process. There is also a general fund available through the state of California. It's a $120 million fund that gets replenished every year, available to all injured workers, but all it means is an additional $5,000 to you to put with that voucher to go through a vocational rehab program. Now, typically they won't pay you to cash out that voucher, so you are basically on your own or with the assistance of an attorney finding a vocational rehab school that you can use the voucher at.
If I'm injured at work or somebody I know is injured at work, what's your advice to them? Should they speak to an attorney?
I would definitely get an attorney even if it's not me. And I mean that sincerely. The situation is this. Right now, the biggest problem with the workers' comp system has to do with medical treatment. Now, with medical treatment, you have to choose typically from a medical provider network, which is a list of doctors. It's a box of doctors available to you through the workers' comp system, through the carrier or the employer. So you're actually picking a doctor from their list of doctors. Now, let's say you pick a doctor from their list, and that doctor says you need an MRI or some diagnostic test, or heaven forbid, surgery. That request is not immediately acted on by the insurance company. What they do is they send it to utilization review, which is a doctor that never sees you, never examines you, never asks you one question, merely looks at limited medical reports. They're not even required to look at all your medical reports. And the vast majority of the time says, no, you don't get that service. You don't get that form of treatment. Now, the problem with that is, in years past, I could take that right to a workers' comp appeals board judge, discuss the matter with the judge, either informally with the other attorney or actually through a trial, and get a judge to order the treatment. Nowadays, if a utilization review doctor denies a form of treatment, I have to appeal it to an independent medical reviewer. Another doctor that doesn't see you, doesn't examine you, is essentially the deciding doctor. Now, there's ways to appeal that. If you're an attorney, you're going to know how to appeal it. If you're an attorney, you may know ways around it, ways to negotiate with the insurance company, ways to try and get the treatment for these people, which is going to be next to impossible if you represent yourself. The other thing is, as far as settlement is concerned, these days we rely on the American Medical Association guides. It's a green book. Basically, I call it the Green Bible on workers' comp. Doctors use this green book. They look at a certain table, certain column, certain page. They evaluate your impairment by looking at those tables and columns. The problem is, oftentimes, it underestimates the value of your impairment. Well, attorneys that do the business a lot, or they're in workers' comp, they're familiar with a companion set of cases called Alvarez-Guzman. Under Alvarez-Guzman, an attorney can take a deposition of the doctor who gave the opinion and use those cases, use the AMA guides in such a way to acquire a higher level of impairment. For example, recently I took a deposition of a doctor and increased the impairment from 28 to 45%. It was a 45-minute deposition. The value of the case went up $30,000. Now, I'm not patting myself on the back. Any competent attorney could have done the same thing. The problem is an individual is not going to be able to do the same thing. They're just not going to be able to. What's going to happen if you represent yourself? The defendant will try and guide the medical treatment, okay, try and get you to see a doctor they want you to see. Once an assessment is made, they're not going to tell you all the options, other ways to enhance the case. If that case is presented to the Workers' Comp Appeals Board for approval, all the facts won't come out like they would if you had proper representation. So my attitude is for a maximum fee of 15%, if you get a good, competent attorney, they're going to more than make up for that fee, and it's well worth the price.
All right, thank you very much.
Well,